converting from RSView32 to FactoryTalk And the first thing I want to stress is no, RSView32 is not going away as of yet. It is a mature product, and if you're designing anything new, you want to be using FactoryTalk
so that would be classified as a
mature product.
A mature product.
So again, it's not Silver Series. There's no Silver Series announced. It is just a mature product. And any new systems, you definitely want to use FactoryTalk But the one thing I want to, and the reason we included it in this migration seminar, is that it will be 32-bit operating systems only. It will not be ported to a 64-bit operating system, and will be supported as long as 32-bit operating systems are available. So, and I have no crystal ball that tells me how long that's going to be, but the way computers move forward, I say, I can almost bet 5 years from now you're not going to be able to buy a 32-bit computer. And that's probably being really conservative, maybe earlier than that. So, anybody who has a RSView32 might want to consider moving to FactoryTalk because of replacement in the future. Your PC dies 5 years from now, what are you going to do? You're going to hit eBay trying to find those 32-bit computers, is what I suspect. So, so some of the benefits. So I would urge you to start looking into the View32 systems and start looking at that conversion to FactoryTalk which is the prime product right now for SCADA applications. Some of the benefits of doing it is continued support for the latest Microsoft operating systems. FactoryTalk is on 32-bit and 64-bit, and will move forward with the operating systems. Eliminates requirement for specialized IT support. I'm not exactly sure what that means. But it allows you to take care of, or take advantage of some of the latest features with Rockwell's integrated architecture, including all the faceplates that Chuck just talked about are all available for FactoryTalk FTViewSE. So it's some of the, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but there's a lot of benefits. Some of the terms, so you know, if you have something called RSView32 Works, the development environment for FactoryTalk View Studio, for FactoryTalk is FactoryTalk View Studio. But I actually should have changed this slide, because really to replace View32, you need FactoryTalk View Studio as well as either Station or Station and a Client. Because View32 Works was not just a development system, it was a development and a runtime. So really, to replace View32 Works, you'd need this plus either the Station, I'll explain what that is, or a server and a client to make something compatible to RSView32 Works. Compatible to an RSView32 runtime would be a FactoryTalk FTViewSE station. A FactoryTalk FTViewSE station is equivalent to a client and server. It's a single standalone SCADA system that is not expandable. You can't drop any more clients or hook it to any other server. It's meant to be a standalone SCADA solution. So that's what View32 runs on. If you use RSView Active Display Server, which was really software that sat on top of View32, which started out as a single, to make it look like a client server, to try to serve data out to other computers. So it made a client server out of View32. But to be compatible with that, you'd move to FactoryTalk FTViewSE servers and clients. Some of the benefits SE is, again, the process faceplates, global objects, and dock displays. There's actually quite a few. There's the redundancy for our HMI server. It's a configuration. You can have two servers that, if one fails, it immediately switches over to the other. That's for the RSLinks data server, for the HMI server, and FactoryTalk event servers. You can take advantage of the FactoryTalk live data and direct referencing of tags. And what that means is, in the old View32, you had to make a list, you had a tag database. And basically, you had to make those tags in the View32 point to tags in your PLCs, and you had to make sure all of them matched up correctly, and inevitably something didn't match. I mean, every time I did a project with them, you know, so you have to go through at the end and say, that one's the wrong place. Startup time took a lot of time. Where in FactoryTalk you don't need to create a database in your server. You can just strictly point to a tag in your control logics, compact logics, and have that live data. So there's no creating that database. And as soon as I add a point to my PLC, I can walk over to my HMI, point down to that tag, and display it on my HMI. And I can do that while it's running too. That's another advantage. It says that in a moment that edit applications online. That's what I was just referring to. That you can make changes online to a FactoryTalk project, meaning that my operators can be looking at a screen and I can be off on FactoryTalk View Studio changing that screen. Well, they're not going to see the change as they're on the screen. But if they leave that screen and come back after I've made the changes, they will now see those changes the next time they go to that screen. So those changes can be online while it's running. You can't do that with View32, so that's one big advantage. We have fully integrated multi-language in FactoryTalk, including runtime language switching, so that I can have a SCADA system that's English and Spanish, so that when my second operator comes in, he just hits a button. Or maybe you have two operators, one speaks English, one speaks Spanish, and the third one speaks Portuguese. I can put buttons along the bottom that whenever they walk up to that screen, they can immediately change to that other language. So there's runtime language switching in FactoryTalk, which is very. You have FactoryTalk alarms and events, which is actually takes in traditional View32 and traditional HMI systems, all the alarming is done up at the HMI level, and the HMIs are all going, you know, who's got alarms, who's got alarms, who's got alarms. Well, FactoryTalk alarms and events basically puts the alarming down at the controller level, and the controller says, I have an alarm, and anybody who subscribes to it gets that alarm. So it's a more efficient way of doing alarming, so that you have one guy saying, I have an alarm, as opposed to 12 servers or HMI saying, who's got an alarm, who's got an alarm. So it's a more efficient way of doing alarming, and it moves it down to the SE. So there's quite a few advantages to moving to SE. Some other ones is that you have client-side VBA, so that you can individualize clients for different areas if need be. Security enhancements with FactoryTalk Security. There's a lot more options in the security. FactoryTalk Security. You have FactoryTalk Diagnostics available, including, I think someone mentioned it earlier, FactoryTalk Asset Center, which can log changes made, so that you can see, you know, if you have someone online changing screens and it messes up something, we can go back and find out who did it on what computer at what time, exactly what they did to the screens, and maybe even revert back or what have you. So there is, through Asset Center, there is auditing available. Okay, some of the considerations, just I'll quickly go through this. When you're converting, the startup configuration in RSView32 must be manually converted to a View32. I mean, you can bring a View32 product right into FactoryTalk SE, but there's certain things that need a little bit of. That's not a big issue. That's not a lot of work, but you do need to rework startup files for each client. The second one, communication configuration, RSLinks data server. It says that you need to recreate the RS and an OPC server or RSLinks needs to be recreated in RSLinks topics. That's not 100% true. You can use RSLinks Enterprises, which is included in SE, because it is faster when you're talking to Logix controllers, the compact logic control logics. But if you're putting this on top of SLICs or MicroLogix, you can actually continue to use classic RSLinks and just add it into the system. So it doesn't have to be translated to, because there's no clear advantage when using RSLinks Enterprise with SLICs and MicroLogix. So and your OPC server, say you have an OPC server talking to some of those other guys out there. I have no idea. I'm sure there's other control vendors out there somewhere. And if you have an OPC server to one of those, it can be added to your SE application too. Not all the native trend objects are not converted, so there's some work with the trending that needs to be done. as well as the HMI summary object will require some work. FactoryTalk SE implements client-side VBA as opposed, but not server-side. So if you have a lot of VB in your application, there is going to be some work to make it client-side. Some of it may work, some of it may need to be reworked because it's on the client side. And there is some help files and some things that help you determine what needs to be done in that VBA. View32 HMI users are not converted to FactoryTalk users, so again, a little bit of work there. Client-side events are executed on the server. That shouldn't be a problem, it's just something to be noted. The tag monitor and command line object are not supported in FactoryTalk FTViewSE, so if you're using one of those, you may need to rework that as well. View32, as a mature product, had some additional options for it, including Messenger, Recipe Pro, SBC, Web Server, and Documenter. The Messenger, we recommend something called Spectre Instruments, Win911. There is a company that does Messenger, being the one that will, yeah, it still works. It works great. So I said, oh, it's still around. It's actually a good product. Works very well. What Messenger does is you can have alarms that text or page or email or whatever certain people on certain events, and that we had a native package option for that in View32, but we recommend Win911, which has been doing that forever, and they're very good at it. So they are an Encompass partner with Rockwell, so they fit very well with them. So that's what we recommend. If you're Recipe Pro, you have Recipe Plus in ME and SE. You can also add, as it's available as an active act, you could add it. There's another recipe as well. View32 SPC, we have FactoryTalk is storing SE with FactoryTalk Vantage Point, which that's a very expensive solution for that, but that's your only option. So if you're using the SPC function, well, we do have some options, but it's going to cost a little coin. The web server, View32 had a web server. That is FactoryTalk Viewpoint, which is a separate product for FTViewSE. I just want to mention that, because some people don't realize that a PanelView Plus, and this goes for versions 5 and higher, has a one connection Viewpoint server included with it at no extra charge. So if you have a PanelView Plus out there that's 5.1 or greater, it has a web server in it. And what that means is any display that you've created in your ME application can be published to the web server. And anybody who has connection to that via Ethernet, that PanelView Plus, can look at those screens. And that's no extra charge. If you're using 5.0 or 5.1, you have to get an add-in off the knowledge base. If you're using 6.0 or 6.1, it's included right under Tools. You'll see Published. And just a note also that I find so interesting is some people have created, you can have a separate main program from that web server than you do from the operator station. So I found some OEMs and system integrators that have created, that they have one set of navigation path for the operators, but when they come in from the back end, either for diagnostic, they may have a whole different set of screens that they look at that have no way to get to them from the operator, but they're for use as a diagnostics. Some I've seen it using that there's a set of screens for production supervisors that, you know, it's not what the operators look at, they just want to see a couple screens with production stuff on it. So I guess what I'm pointing out is screens from the operator don't necessarily have to be the same ones that you have out on the web browser. But again, any PanelView Plus 5.0 or greater has a built-in one connection, you know, only one person can be connected at a time, but it's free. I love that. I can't say that often with Rockwell.
Is the page number limited? How many pages?
It's limited by the memory.
By the memory, okay.
So if you're doing it, I recommend a 6.0 because that's part of the reason we went to faster expanded memory. So, you know, if you've got a bazillion things on your panel view, it might be tough to publish a bazillion. That's a high-tech number. Publish all of them on the other side because of memory constraints.
Okay.
But it is pretty pretty hard. And if you're going to have a lot, again, go to 6.0 or 6.1. Where was it? Okay, Project Documenter. Application documenter. String substitution, translated strings are not converted. Tag license, one of the differences between View32 and SE is ViewSE has unlimited tags. That's the good news. What it does limit is the number of displays, and that means the number of displays in your application are limited. So it's licensed by the number of screens within your application, 25, 100, 250, or unlimited. And the reason we did that is because if you recall earlier, I said you don't have to create tags, so we'd only be selling the 25 tag version all the time because you don't have to create tags in SC, so they had to go to a different type, which is different than most SCADA applications. Most SCADA applications are by the number of tags. With ours, you get unlimited tags, which you limit on the screen. So there is a knowledge base document that again has some consideration guidelines that will help you. It's answer ID 27708. There is a step forward program where you can. There's a step forward program available. Again, you can turn in your licenses, and it gives you a 50% discount on a ViewSE license. And you can, it's a 1-for-1. So you can take a View runtime and trade it in for a client. You can take a Works and trade it in for a server, but you're still gonna have to purchase the client. But it does give you some help with that. It was announced on the 11th. You must have a valid serial number, and that serial number will be retired. I mean, that serial number basically goes away for your View32 because you're going to get a new FactoryTalk ViewSE number. And it says it's dependent on distributor participation. We participate. So. Just a couple of questions that might pop up. You can take, if you don't want to just open up your View32, you want to start an application fresh from SE, you can take bits and pieces and bring them in, meaning if you just want a couple of the graphic screens to come in, you can export and import them and do it as well as with the caveat that you can't have, there's no unknown ActiveX controls. Parameter files, macros, and some of the other stuff also same thing, that you can do it on a piecemeal if you don't want to bring the whole application over. One question that comes up frequently with that new display type licensing, do small pop-up windows count a display towards your license? Yes. All windows, if you go down your list of windows in View32 and count those, you need a license that covers every single one of those.
But if you use parameters to pull up the same window for 3 different machines, that's still just one screen. Yeah,
that's it. Parameter file is basically, again, like if you have a tank, I can have a little file that says for tank 1, these are the tags, for tank 2, these are the tags. That only counts as one screen. So he's just, when there is a point, the parameter files can help you reduce that number of screens available.
You do have unlimited screen licensing though, right?
There isn't, yes you do.
Yeah.
But you do I need to upgrade the latest version of RSView before I convert to SE? No. You can take most versions. If you have an ancient version, but most versions will convert. You can run View32 and FactoryTalk View on the same computer, but they cannot run at the same time. But if you need to go back and forth, you can open them up and close them down. Or you could run View32 in the XP mode, switch between XP mode and your native is another way to do that. Another question that comes up commonly is, can you use FactoryTalk View with no security for a standalone project? That you can turn off all security if you don't want. And a lot of standalone computers that don't have it, there's no need for security, so that is an option for you. How long will the Step Forward upgrade program run? Indefinitely right now, because we have no Silver Series date. So, again, it's totally available. If any of you are in the pharmaceutical, the 21 CFR Part 11 worked on the View32, works the same in SE. parameter files, which we talked about, also work the same. And does FactoryTalk SE support Windows 7? Yes, both 32 and 64-bit. Version 6.1 is a 64-bit. And again, there's all sorts of technical information. Again, Rockwell's provided, as with all this migration, there's a lot of information out there on their website to help you with all these migrations.